Okay. Speaking of scary stuff, have you watched Skinamarink? I'm sure it is a little overly talked about, but I really enjoyed it, honestly. I highly recommend watching Heck first, though, first on YouTube. I was actually going to make a video talking about Skinamarink, and I guess I could actually probably make this the video and just release it as a clip. Um, so yeah, I was originally going to make a video talking about Skinamarink, as well as talking about another video, or another movie called The Outwaters. So first and foremost, my thoughts on Skinamarink. It's really fucking good. Like, it's almost disgustingly art house. So if you're not a big like art house fan, and you're not a fan of kind of like esoteric storytelling, you're probably not going to enjoy Skinamarink like even a little bit. If you're a fan of like oh gosh, I can't remember the term, but things like the Mandela catalogs and um Welcome Home and stuff like that, augmented reality stuff, in a sense. If you're a fan of those, you'll probably really enjoy Skinamarink. Matt Pat released a video on the Film Theorist channel a while back talking about Skinamarink and like theorizing what the story was actually about. But yeah, I watched it. I had no idea what it was. My housemate just came to me one day and he's like, "Let's watch Skinamarink." And I'm like, "Okay." And we watched it, I think, at like 2 p.m. on like a Wednesday afternoon or something. And we just sat there in almost stunned mesmerism, because like we're both film students, and it blew us away. And then we started reading like some reviews and stuff, and it was kind of down the middle, right? So like there'd be people who were like, "Oh, it's like super boring, it's slow, it's dumb, I didn't like it, I fell asleep," stuff like that. And then there's other people who are like, "This was cinematic genius. It was the perfect, maybe not the perfect movie, but like so unique in how it actually scares you, because it's for anybody who hasn't seen Skinamarink before, visually it's a little jarring because it never like focuses on a character. It's always focusing on like super close-ups of like a bowl of cereal, or like the corner of a ceiling, or down a hallway. You very rarely ever actually see the characters in the movie. But it helps to put you in the space. I'm not going to sit here and wax on about how the movie makes you feel and stuff, but as far as the actual movie itself, I really enjoyed it. But I'm a little bit more art house style kind of movie. If you're somebody who enjoys more like, again, we talked about that before, if you're somebody who enjoys more like direct visual style stuff, you're going to enjoy it. If you're somebody who leans a little bit more towards the esoteric storytelling kind of thing, you're not going to enjoy it. If you don't like esoteric storytelling, if you do enjoy it, you're definitely going to enjoy Skinamarink. Now, where all that comes into play is shortly after Skinamarink released, there was another movie called The Outwaters, and I also had very high hopes for The Outwaters because it was giving that same sort of vibe, very Skinamarink style vibes with its trailer. And then we watched it. Both me and my housemate were super excited for it because it reminded us of Skinamarink, and we both really enjoyed that movie. So we went and watched it, and we absolutely despised it. The movie takes like, the movie I think is like an hour and a half, 2 hours long, something like that. It takes like 45, 60 minutes, like almost an hour, to actually get into the point where scary stuff starts to happen. And then the scary stuff, you can't see it, but I'm using massive air quotes right now. The scary stuff that happens is literally just running around in the dark with scary noises and being like, ah, ooh. And when I say running around in the dark, I literally mean you cannot see a fucking thing in this movie. Like, nothing at all. There were a couple times where I actually asked my housemate, like, hey, is your TV working? Because there is no picture on screen right now. And the times when there is picture, it's through, like, the pinpoint of the end of a flashlight. It's so maddeningly stupid because it, like, the sound design is amazing, but everything else about the movie is so boring and dull. I couldn't remember any of the characters' names. Nothing happens, and when stuff does happen, you can't see it. And then, you know, we went and read reviews for it, and it's the very same thing as Skinamarink, very divisive. You know, a lot of people saying, like, oh, it was so great, it really scared the shit out of me. Other people saying, like, oh, it was fucking dumb as hell. I get how it could be scary, but for me personally, like, even the storytelling didn't even make a whole lot of sense, because the whole thing is supposed to be, like, the fear of the unknown and whatnot. It's so dumb. So, like, we're in this situation where we're like, there's two movies that are pretty similar. One is really good, the other is absolute garbage, but they share similar styles, you know. But, like, the Skinamarink I really enjoyed. The Outwaters, complete garbage. Like, you might as well just you might as well just listen to people screaming like a YouTube video, like for actually it's not even 90 minutes, probably just like 40 minutes, something like that. And then, like, the ending was so dumb. Spoiler alerts for the ending of the Outwaters, which I don't recommend you watch at all. So, like, the basic story is a bunch of friends get together. They go out to the middle of the Mojave Desert. Fallout reference, huge deal, big deal. Probably got Josh Sawyer to write it off. So they go out to the middle of the Mojave Desert, and, you know, they spend, I think, one night, and they start hearing, like, you know, sounds of, like, rocket ships, animals moving around, stuff like that. They wake up, everything's fine. And then some weird artistic stuff happens. And then they go to bed the next night, and then boom, more scary stuff happens. One guy goes out to investigate. He sees a figure in the darkness holding an axe. Turns around. Sounds like the guy came up and whacked him in the back of the head with that axe. Then he comes back, and then boom, stuff just all of a sudden starts happening. Again, you can't see any of it because there's no fucking light, but you hear, like, the people in the campsite screaming, they're freaking out, there's yelling, blah 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 blah. That goes on for like it feels like 20 minutes. And then it's daytime. The only dude left, that we see, he's, like, wandering around the desert. This is all handheld, by the way. This is all stuff that's happening through, like, a camcorder. So it makes it even more jarring and trying to figure out, like, what's actually happening. So he, like, wanders around the desert. There's, like, some weird snake thing that looks like intestines coming after him. And, like, then it's darkness again. He falls in a cave, I think, and then hallucinates his mom, and he's on an airplane, and then it's daytime again, and then I think there's one other night scene, and then it's daytime again, and then he's, like, wandering through the desert. He finds a shark tooth, or something that looks like the tooth that would be in a shark's mouth. I don't know if it's, like, from the monster. Oh, he also runs into the monster in the dark, but all we see is, like just a wall of, like, scales, and he's, like, getting close to it, and there's, like, but it's, like, we never see it. I know I'm saying, like, a whole lot, and I'm not really being specific with my details, but that's because I can't, because there are no details. You can't fucking see anything, and nothing makes sense. He falls into, like, a pool of blood in a cave twice, I think, and then is in the desert again. None of it makes sense. But he goes out and he finds the shark tooth, just, like, on like a dry lake bed. He picks it up, he cuts his own dick off, and then he's walking out into the desert. his hands held up to the sky. He left the camera behind, and then like that's it. That's the movie. It's so fucking dumb. It's so fucking dumb. And I would 100% guarantee that if I were to describe the plot of Skinamarink right now, it would sound equally as dumb. But the Outwaters is almost feels like a different kind of dumb, because it almost feels like it's supposed to be like, oh, this is like super interesting and super like, you know, like, oh, it's so heady. I see a lot of people like, oh, it's a like real good Lovecraftian you know, horror movie, and like, you don't know what Lovecraftian is if you think this is a Lovecraftian horror movie. Like, it's so dumb. Anyway, that was my rant about how good Skinamarink is and how awful the Outwaters is. That was supposed to be 2 videos. Now it's 1. You're welcome. I saved you some time. I definitely recommend all 3. Outwaters sounds like a very vague movie. The only reason I would recommend the Outwaters is like, you're just looking for, it's not quite like, you know, Winnie the Pooh, Blood and Honey, where it's like, it's so bad it's good. It's kind of that weird in between where it's like, it's close, but in sort of like the good it's bad kind of way. But the bad is mostly just this creator thought that they were doing something way more like grand than they actually were. It's like, it's not poorly made by any stretch of the imagination. It's just so like, movies are a visual medium. How are you gonna fucking drench like 40% of your movie in abject darkness? It makes no sense.